Man.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome once again to Caffeine and Cantrips, the show where we are forced to talk about D&D or else.
Today, we've got a hunker-dunker of you.
Ooh, hunker and a dunker.
Yeah, for you and of you. Today, we're
And on you.
going to get discussing about not the Easter Bunny, not Santa Claus,
Ooh.
but the belief and the power behind it.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
stick with us today. We're going to check out about how you can shape your experience in D&D just with the power of imagination.
And we're back. Wonderful.
Welcome to another episode of Caffeine and Cantrips. Today is going to be a chunker donker.
Okay.
I think this one, we
Chunker
always
my
talk
dunker.
about like super impactful things.
Oh, yeah.
And this one
So tiring.
for our 40-umpteenth episode is going to be something that relies and kind of has been laying under the surface of many other things that we've been talking about.
Yep.
And so today, like we kind of talked about there a little bit before, we're going to start to focus on the power of belief in D&D and TTRPGs
Yes.
in general, and how our beliefs and how we kind of our inner workings translate into our characters and our experience at the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Without further ado, I'm gonna.
Do me no more.
Ooh, maybe a little bit more.
Just a touch.
Sweet. I want to start it off by talking about how your beliefs define your world.
Was that our first fourth wall break? There's going to be a lot of fourth
Is there
wall
a wall?
breaking.
Is there a wall?
There's no wall between us. But yeah, we're punching through. We're talking to you today.
Yes. So your beliefs define your world. I know it's weird, right? But this is true of TTRPGs and D&D too.
Yes.
Right? So whether you are a DM or a player, your beliefs are like 100% defining your D&D experience. Like 100. It seems like a lot, 100. but it really does.
One and done, baby.
I
One and
believe
done.
so.
Yes.
It's funny because psychologists have spent like decades,
Decades. Or
at
centuries.
least 20 years studying how our core beliefs sort of shape how we feel and what we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you believe the future is bleak, right, you'll likely be depressed, right? If you have this quote unquote growth mindset, like that's to mean like you believe that people can change and get better.
Okay.
You're more likely to sort of put effort into what you do and grow.
Okay.
Right? It could be the same. You could be in the same sort of life. The two people, hitting the mic.
That's what separates us.
Right? Yeah. Right.
Pristine.
You could be everything else being equal is just that difference in belief. One person will be depressed. One other person will be doing better and better and better and looking forward to doing that.
Absolutely.
Right. So like, I really think that what we believe about ourselves and the world around us, really, it doesn't matter what reality actually is in our experience, in the way that we experience the world around us, our beliefs absolutely shape everything. The experience, at least. So even if I would go so far as to say even that our beliefs are our reality, right? It's like how can that be true? Like if it's an apple, how can it be an orange? But if you 100% believe that it's an orange, to you it's an orange. Doesn't matter if everyone else thinks it's an apple. It's an orange to you.
I think that's a funny thing that we call delusion. agree.
Absolutely. It's delusion.
Yeah, I agree with the premise. I don't necessarily agree with the metaphor, right? Like, I love apples because they're juicy and sweet and delicious. You don't like apples because they're dry and they're rank and they're moldy, right? And we can look at the same apple and have our own individual reactions to it, based on whatever's going on.
Yep.
But it's just an apple. So the reality gets defined, I think, by our beliefs, not the reverse.
Well, it is what it is. And our belief that it's an apple makes it an apple. Our belief that it's an orange makes it an orange. You might call it, if everyone believes it's an apple and you're the only one thinks it's an orange, we call it a delusion. Everyone else, the apple people, call it a delusion. Orange guy says this is the truth.
Okay.
So, and a delusion is belief.
I'm going to give you some rope to see where you go with this, because I think I disagree, but
belief,
hit it.
I didn't say that's always good for you.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
And is delusion good? No, because...
Yeah, an apple a day, not an orange a day.
Right? Come on. But it's still belief. And you have defined your world so that this thing that everyone else calls apple is an orange to you.
Right.
Okay? But let's dig a little deeper into it.
A little deeper.
A little deeper.
Because we're going
So what are beliefs?
Okay.
Exactly. What are beliefs? All right, we're getting right in there.
Yeah.
So beliefs are things that we hold to be true. Right? Regardless of whether we have any proof of the objective truth.
Interesting. It's like how the Constitution starts, right? In the US.
Yeah, that's what it is.
These truths we hold to be self-evident.
Right. I believe that they're self-evident.
Yeah.
Therefore, they are to me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And as we grow up, we learn and take on the views and the beliefs of those around us. So like when we're young, it's like our parents, and then our teachers, our friends. As TTRPG players, it's our table mates, our dungeon master.
What we watch on Twitch or YouTube.
Right. Oh, like we watch a lot of Critical Role. Now that is what D&D has to be. And if what I have is not that, then obviously I'm not playing D&D. Right?
Okay.
Right. Like those kinds of beliefs, right?
Okay.
We get it from the people around us, right? And we might accept some of these beliefs. We might reject them, right? Another way of gaining beliefs is basically we develop some beliefs from our personal experiences, right? And the feelings that we associate with those moments.
Okay.
Okay. And more than this, though, we develop beliefs through our repeated actions. Let's say this again because it's important. We develop our beliefs through our repeated actions. Okay. So the more you think about one thing, it develops, that belief gets stronger and stronger. Right? Every time we do something and it works out the way we think it is, it becomes a belief.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And if you are consistently late, for example, you start to believe that you're terrible at time management. For example, like I'm always late. And every time I'm late, it reinforces the idea that I am not good at time management. That's why I'm always late, right? Even though, in fact, maybe a better alarm clock or better sleep habits could change that label. It's not that I'm poor time management. I just need a better alarm clock. Like maybe my body just naturally oversleeps.
Okay.
Right? We don't, right? It's that added sort of judgment, that belief.
Interesting.
That gets because of that repeated action of being late all the time.
So what's the difference between a belief and a habit?
Habits are just what you do. Beliefs are the judgment, the truths about the world and yourself and others that you develop because of that habit.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to clarify then. So the habit is the physical action, whereas the belief is the emotional or mental kind of...
The truth based on that habit.
Right. The truth or your truth?
Well,
the subjective truth.
Yes.
Okay.
Because, hot take maybe, all truths are subjective.
Oh.
Beyond the fact, beyond it is. And it happened.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And in time, beliefs will shape our identity, and then we become our beliefs. Right? And it's funny, as I was doing research about beliefs and what the researchers were doing, the researchers were studying this human belief over these years, and they were actually surprised to find a couple of things. There are 26 discrete types of beliefs. They call them primal beliefs.
I'm just amazed you did homework.
Right?
Wow.
Because I believe that I'm that type of person. Yeah. And that shapes your reality of me.
It certainly does. So 26, a primal, you said?
Primal beliefs.
Primal. Okay.
Primal beliefs. I'm not going to go through all of them because that's a lot.
Makes you think of that dinosaur fighting game. Primal Instinct or whatever it was. Yeah.
Great game. Yeah. Anyways.
Sorry.
These 26 primal beliefs can be broken down into 3 large categories.
Okay.
4.
Of 8 and a third.
Yeah. The first one is safe versus dangerous.
Oh, okay.
That's a category. So things like competitiveness versus cooperativeness, just versus unjust, pleasurable versus miserable. So I believe the world is cooperative versus I believe the world is competitive. That's in the safe versus dangerous category.
Okay.
The next one is alive versus mechanistic. So that would be beliefs like something needs me / doesn't need.
Okay.
Something is intentional / unintentional.
Oh,
something is interactive or indifferent.
Okay.
Right? For example, free will versus no free will. Right? The world, the universe was created. The universe just happened.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Right? Alive versus mechanistic.
So alive would be an active decision, and mechanistic would be just like a system.
Like a machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody says on the phone, like you get caught, someone's like, bye, and you just say like, I love you. You're like, oh, damn, that random person. Sorry,
exactly.
Love you.
Yeah.
Damn.
Right? Something alive has a will.
Yeah.
Right?
Enjoy the show. You too.
You're not going to go watch the show.
Okay.
The third one is enticing versus dull. So that's interesting / boring, beautiful or ugly, meaningful, meaningless. Right? That's the third one. And there's a fourth one, is just the neutral stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which is something is inherently hierarchical or non-hierarchical. It's changing versus it's static. It's acceptable versus it's unacceptable.
Okay.
There's a bunch of other ones of those subcategories.
Sure.
And those make up the 26, but those 3 large categories. Safe versus dangerous, enticing versus dull, alive versus mechanistic, and then neutral.
Interesting. Because for 2 of those 3, that it's a very clear definition of how we should want our D&D games or our TTRPG games to play. We want them to be alive and enticing. And then we want them to flirt between that safe and dangerous. Right?
Yes.
But we definitely want enticing. We definitely want alive. Yeah, okay, cool.
Right, and there's a bunch of neutral stuff in there too.
Sure.
Right?
Neutral schmoutral.
Or true neutrals. Who cares about the neutral guys? Meaningless punks. So these primal beliefs, though, they can be about ourselves. They can be about others.
Yeah.
They can be about the world around us.
Okay.
Basically everything that matters.
Basically, yeah.
And it's what they found that was really interesting is that your specific combination of beliefs can predict your specific joys and sorrows in a person.
Oh.
Yeah, in their studies, they discovered this, which is kind of crazy.
Okay.
So people who believe the world is safe, enticing, and alive, for example, are likelier to show gratitude to others. They're likelier to be more trusting and are happier. So this is not you at all. People who...
Not from behind my fortress with furballs.
Right. My emotional fortress.
Dull mechanistic danger back here, baby.
People who see the world as alive are more likely to be spiritual and find meaning in their lives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
Right? Whereas mechanistic, like there is no meaning to life or to the universe. It's stuff this is, right? Like nihilist. That's me. I struggle with that. Right? So it affects sort of, it's crazy, apparently. People who are depressed believe that the world is unsafe. Inherently, apparently. For example, the DM's aloof glance is a sign that he looks down on you, right? And not that he's just trying desperately to think of a way out of that ingenious ploy that you just did, right? It's because you believe that the world is inherently unsafe. You see that instead of
that would be that. No longer do I see the DM as a cooperative, right? But now a competitive because of that.
Or the other players.
The other players try to one up me, steal my spotlight.
Oh, the DM's just trying to kill me.
Yeah,
I can't do anything because the DM's trying their best to ruin it.
Yeah,
to not let me get my way.
Yeah,
right.
And there are some out there,
right? And what you believe in can mean the difference between the best and the worst campaign ever.
Oh,
right.
Sure.
Or the best and worst experience ever.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really good to understand what your beliefs are as you go into this talk, and when you go into TTRPG. Like, how am I defining my experience at the D&D table? Right. So yeah, that's just a relatively short sort of preamble on beliefs and what they are and how it affects us.
It's very interesting because there are things out there that I know that we've all experienced, whether directly through action or just through sensory input. But for instance, like when they tell, top athletic individuals, right? Go in and see in your mind, right? And go and see yourself making that throw, see yourself making that catch, see yourself like go through these motions and practice it, which in effect gives you that foundation for creating the belief, right?
Yes.
And our brains are hardwired to give us exactly what we want, just like Google, right? You type in studies that show coffee is bad for me. Then you type in studies that show coffee is good for me, right? Yeah. Your brain does the exact same thing when you're like, oh man, I'm going to suck at this. And then your mind pulls up all the highlights of all your suckage. Right. And it's just, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. And then otherwise you could go, no, I'm totally going to rock at this.
Right. You go to YouTube and you're like, the best D&D podcast ever is Caffeine and Cantrips.
Of course it is.
But you go and you search the worst D&D podcast ever.
But that will make it easier to get more of those highlights, like Caffeine and Cantrips being the best podcast out there, is to just go right down below where you see us, tippity tap on that subscribe, hit the like, share with your friends if they don't believe as hard as you believe.
Right?
Go real paladin.
We believe in you. Real we do love paladins.
Why are you giving me a whoa hand?
But like whoa
belief,
like
the power. I used to think
that paladins, like, that's ridiculous. You believe so hard that you make stuff happen, but you guys, we're all gonna be paladins after this talk.
We're all gonna be just a multi-class, a dip.
Yeah,
a dip.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I love that idea now.
Also, check us out on all the major platforms. We even have a Discord server, which the link will be
we do.
Down below. Thanks to the community for helping us get that up and going. But yeah, I want to break away from everything that you just said. No, not all. No.
How can you? You can't.
I can't. I don't believe I can.
I don't believe you can either.
No, what I want to do is take from that foundation that you've built here, because it's very interesting, but what you've said is the tip of the iceberg, right? Is just trying to define scope and the breadth of this conversation. I think we have to rein it in somewhat, because we could talk forever, honestly, on stuff like this. And knowing that our brains are machines that support us, and our brains that will honestly do whatever it can do to help you do whatever it is that you want to do. We have to work on that.
Yep.
Right. And we've said it before, and I'll say it again. When we're coming into playing games, right, taking the real world and bringing it more into kind of, let's go into the intermediary position between the fantasy life and the real life. when we are being creative, when we are creating, we can only create from what we know.
Yes.
Now, before this, we've talked about vocabulary. We've talked about kind of colorful language. We've talked about ways of viewing things and perspectives and changing things so that it can suit and create new ideas and whatnot. This particular creating from what we know is far more kind of rattling our cage when we start talking about belief, right? Because belief, like I said before, kind of floats under the surface. You don't actively, generally, you don't actively choose what to believe in. The beliefs just kind of build up through natural everyday efforts, natural everyday function.
Your experiences, the people you run into.
Exactly, right? You know that Starbucks has good coffee because you go to Starbucks. You don't go to the other places, right? You've made that choice, and so now you believe that Starbucks is the better choice. So you continue to go there.
Is it though?
Starbucks call.
But call us.
So when we talk about creating from what we believe, now we're looking at how satisfied we are, how happy we are, confidence, sadness, depression, right? All of these things we create from that net of ourselves to make the characters. Now, this is also going to mitigate because it's always going to subtract from what we're going to look at in the game. So if I only look at positive things and I make happy-go-lucky characters, I will subtract the negative emotions. It doesn't mean that I can. Doesn't mean that I can't experience them or engage with them in game. But when I'm creating my character, I'm going to subtract from the negative side and add to the positive side and create a positive character. Conversely, I can subtract from the positive side and add to the negative side, and maybe I can make a depressed character. These are both fine. They're great choices if that's the story that you want to tell.
Where are you subtracting from again? Like
from the balance.
Oh, it's
I think that most emotions exist on kind of a scale.
Yeah.
Right. From its positive version of itself to its negative version of itself. Right.
Yep.
So happy, sad.
Right.
Right. Calm, angry.
Right.
Right. So we can go from that to say, where are you in real life and what are you creating from that?
Okay.
Right. And when we're doing this, this isn't, like I said before, this isn't a bad thing. None of this is bad. This is just where we're coming from right now.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And getting to step one, accepting that can be quite a leap.
Yes.
Or it can be a very easy step. It depends on you. However, when we're looking at dealing with these things, dealing with our real world issues, and sometimes turning D&D or TTRPGs into therapy sessions, that happens because we're dealing with genuine fake emotions, or we're dealing with our genuine emotions broadcast through a fantasy character, right? And so these things push us comfortably, sometimes uncomfortably, far more often, into overcoming challenges. Okay. So when we're dealing with this, the short version, like you alluded to, is when you come up to a challenge, just do it. And that is the hardest advice that probably anyone could ever follow, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Just do it. It doesn't matter what it is. Just do it. What do you mean? Like, I want to go jump on the moon. Okay, go do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
So guys, I want to start a podcast. All right, just go do it.
Okay, just do it. This is getting into Shia LaBeouf territory, right? But there is do it. But there is a power in that statement. There's so much power in it that, like, the biggest sports company, sports paraphernalia company in the world, Nike, was just like, just do it. That's it.
Yeah,
just do it.
It's such a powerful statement.
It is. That's the short version. That's $1 million advice right there. The long version can be very long. It can be years worth of progression in small steps, in minor victories, huge setbacks, and then more minor victories. Right,
because Nike doesn't say, just do it. It's going to be hard. You're going to fail a lot. And you're not going to do it as well as you think you're going to do it.
Do it every day for the rest of your life, or else
as long as you do it every time and do a little bit better every time, you'll be great. Nike.
So Nike. Yeah. And that'll be $400. So the long version isn't long, but we have to break it down into, I think, 3 parts.
Oh, okay.
I like breaking things down to 3 pillars, 3 parts, blah, blah, blah.
3 is a good number.
In this case, when we're overcoming challenges, that's the focus, right? Expanding our horizons, overcoming challenges. Whether we're doing it in real life or we're doing it in a TTRPG, right? Because as I've said, they're kind of one and the same.
What do you mean by challenges exactly? Like role-playing challenges, character creation challenges, or like
role-playing challenges, moral quandaries, traps, puzzles. If you go
being
into
a DM for the first time,
being a DM, playing a fighter for the first time, playing a magic user for the first time, playing a druid for the first time, playing a religious character, playing a subservient character, whatever it is, right? For the first time, you go up against this thing that you don't know. And so if you look at a puzzle and immediately you go, man, I'm no good at these, right? That is what we're talking about. That immediate reaction of what you tell yourself is that belief, because you are.
Yep.
You are good at it if you want to be. Right? I think I can, I think I can't. You're right. So when we're talking about the long version of overcoming obstacles, it breaks down into three things.
Okay.
The first of which I think is education. And this is not, did you go to university? Did you get your master's? Are you
a PhD?
No. This is education I break down into silly things like proper preparation prevents poor performance. Ha, alliteration. I love that too. But that's going in and doing some reading. What game are you playing? Did you read the rule book? Right? Did you
read the campaign primer?
Did you read the campaign primer? Did you read the module primer? Did you check out online to see some cool stuff that maybe other people have done?
Did you review your notes before the session?
Right. Did you read into some of the stuff that you wanted to look into as part of your game? Right. Did you read into the environment? Oh, you're going into a jungle. Did you go and check out any jungle stuff to like get the theme or get the feeling?
Like real life jungles?
Yeah. Right. That kind of stuff. Did you watch like a David Attenborough Life in the Jungle kind of thing just to understand?
Great.
That's in a nutshell. Yeah. That's education. So it's the knowledge and the kind of stuff that you accumulate intellectually to allow you to bring realism and kind of a genuine practical knowledge base to the challenge.
Yep.
Second part, after you know stuff, is to do stuff. How many times, right? This is application, right? How many times have you jumped over a hurdle or long jumped or thrown a frisbee or thrown a football or ran 100 yards?
This is the hardest part.
This is putting knowledge into application is one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Right? It is absolutely, because this is no longer thinking, this is now doing. Right? And this is getting past a lot of barriers for some of us, myself included.
Yeah, me too.
Procrastinators unite tomorrow. So, right, application comes after education, right? And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have very little education, but you get out there, you get what we say, we get thrown in the deep end, and then you got to sink or swim.
Well, and you get an education while doing it.
You get an education while doing it, right? Especially when you make it back to shore. But this is maybe how much time you've spent playing games, what systems you've played. Maybe you played Pathfinder, or you're going to play a Starfinder game. Great, it's based in the same system, right? Or you played older editions of D&D, now you're playing newer editions of D&D. Well, maybe the rules changed slightly, but the lore is pretty much on point, right? And
so the spells are the same.
Exactly. Right. So that's taking that education and moving it forward into application. The last of the three is experience. So experience is what you have done from day one, from the moment you were born to right here, right now, spending time with us.
Nothing.
Everything accomplished, failed, left behind, taken with you, all of it is your experience, right? It's not just for defeating monsters, or maybe it is because we do have monsters in real life, right? Homework can be a monster. Walking the dog can be a monster. Basic chores, your mortgage, your student loans. All of these things can be monsters that you have gathered experience with and you now know how to handle going forward.
So interesting to think about these things in the context of belief creation.
Right.
That's cool. Okay.
Right. So yeah, I work a minimum wage job, but I have a balanced budget. I know the experience is built from the application and the knowledge now of how to do these things. And so now I don't worry about my budget because I know how to balance it and I know how to stick to it.
Yeah.
And yes, I will defeat my student loans. Yes, I will pay my medical bills. Yes, I will be able to afford that, 5-year-old car that's used on the lot because I can, I've got the credit to do that.
Why is it there for 5 years?
Well, no, it's a 5-year-old. Somebody else had it. You're buying used.
Okay. Okay. I get it. That's better.
Yeah.
Like, why hasn't anyone bought that car for 5 years?
Because they died, Sean. Because they died.
Cursed.
So those three things
Keeps coming back.
meld together to support our decisions in belief to move forward to overcome challenges, right? So if you've never jumped across a snake pit before, but you have done a lot of long jumping, right? You're like, oh, okay, it's the same thing, but bigger stakes.
Yeah, the repetition.
Right? The repetition of doing it. So I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's where we start to blend truly from our experience from the day you were born to right now is where we start blending the realism with the fantasy. Okay. So the balance between you, the player, and your confidence versus your character's confidence, right, can create a limitation that you didn't necessarily mean, but it can be an extremely informative way for you to kind of dissect and analyze yourself and others around you if this is what you're paying attention to, right? So you have a person who's playing a bard, but they never speak up. They never sing. They never dance. They never like kind of do that. That's fine. They're an introvert. They don't necessarily have to.
Right.
But maybe that's what they wanted to try and challenge. Maybe that's the monster that they wanted to try and put application to in this point. It's a great example, right, of that we talked about before, going through your emotions, going through your intelligence, going through all your kind of internal IQs and EQs and everything, right? This is where it really starts to matter because now we're looking at changing the foundation of those symptoms, right? Happiness and satisfaction in your life is based on your belief. Change your belief to be, right? I'm not a millionaire. I don't drive a super awesome sports car. I don't fly around the world all the time. My life sucks. Or my belly's fed, my roof is paid for, and I have a good group of friends to play D&D with every week or two. My life is awesome.
Or I'm not now, but I will be.
Right.
Yeah.
So these sorts of things do translate into your character. Is your character bummed out because they haven't slayed the dragon yet? Right? Okay. Maybe they will in the campaign. Is that all they need to be happy in the campaign? Why are we setting that limitation on them? Why is that so important, right? Where is that coming from? We can see that coming from ourselves. And so this can become also in the opposite scale where the character is more confident than we are with a confidence paradox. Because if we can only create from what we know and our character in game is a total Chad, right? He's the jock of the team. He's this and that, or she, right, is doing these things. And it's super confident and always the face of the party and all that. Yeah. But the player themselves is not in a negative way, but let's say like meek, introverted, kind of makes themselves small or whatnot. This is interesting, right? Because that exists within them. But something about their beliefs has taught them to be this way. To exist in this way, right? Yes. And once again, this is not good. This is not bad. I'm not labeling this with any sort of thing. No judgment here. But what I am saying is that it's within you. So if your character can be confident, you can be confident.
Yes.
Right? And this is a safe place to practice and develop those beliefs. So now that we know that your character can do these things, right? Because they probably can, because they can do fantastic. They can cast spells. Can you cast spells? Yeah, you can.
Right? They can figure it out. They can stare down a king and debate a king and negotiate for like release of prisoners or like wars and all that stuff.
So you could do that at your next HR meeting.
Right?
You really can.
You can.
You really can. And as we see in certain games, if your game is meant for this, to develop a character arc that we've talked about, right? Creating that story, creating that progression, that means that you can mirror what your character does as well. So if your character can go on a growth arc, you can go on a growth arc.
Interesting.
Now, whether that's directly tied to a certain thing that you're exploring because you built it that way, right? I want to play a character from across the tracks. Whatever across the tracks means to you, right? The good side, the bad side, whatever. I want to play a character that is confident. I want to play a character that is meek. I want to play a character that is religious. I want to play a character that is, like we talked about before, all of these different kind of trees and emotional bases. If you can do this, you can develop the knowledge and the application through the gameplay to then develop the experience that will stick with you both inside and outside of the game. right?
Yes.
Using the game as a tool to develop yourself, to analyze yourself, to see what's going on is a great way of not analyzing, but kind of checking in and seeing how your growth arc is going. And one of the biggest things that we've talked about over and over and over again, the challenge is embracing those flaws. Once you identify them,
my flaws.
Your flaws.
There's so many.
I
don't know if my arms are big enough. So here, I'm going to embrace my biggest flaw right here.
That's the thumbnail. So flaws are everywhere. This is one of the hardest things to do, right? But like we talked about before, the shortest answer is to just do it.
Yes.
Turn it from a flaw into not a flaw. Develop the knowledge, figure out the experience, apply towards, fixing those things or adjusting those things or mitigating those things. Because if your character can do it, so can you. And there's more nuance. Yep. Of course, it is not as easy as I'm saying it is. Because it's hard. And we're all dealing with our own demons. Whatever our demons might be.
Yeah, someone once told me when I was younger, it wasn't you.
Oh.
Unfortunately. And it really affected me through my whole life, actually. He says, they're not flaws. They're opportunities for growth.
Right.
Right? Because everyone wants to get better. And these are the places that are obvious that you can do better. Right? So just look at them as opportunities. You get to get better.
Well, we have this in real life. We have optimizers, right? We have gym rats. We have like health conscious, like nutrition people, right? We have financial people. We have business kind of motivated people, business development people, right? You have the creative artists. There are
min-maxers.
Min-maxers in real life and in games. So if you want to squeak out the highest DPS, you can probably figure out how to make your portfolio grow real fast.
Right.
You've just got more options. You want more options? Jump in the stock market. There's lots of options.
Like literally.
Literally, yes. So embracing our flaws becomes the most important part of developing our beliefs as well as ourselves.
Yep.
Right. And challenging those, whatever it was, C.S. Lewis, right? Fables don't teach us that there are dragons, but that they can be defeated.
Oh,
right. Okay. Or can be slain.
Did he say that? Yeah.
I believe it was C.S. Lewis.
One of those old dead guys.
Old Oxford boys. It's really true. Right. And while you may not have the +1 sword of budgeting yet, you can get it. You can develop it. Right. You can say to yourself, I can build this.
Right.
I can do that. I haven't been able to do that before. Or I'm telling myself that I haven't been able to do that before, but I can change that voice. I can change that goal.
Yes.
Right. And when we start to entice ourselves to challenge those flaws, other people will notice as well. Right. And this is generally a good thing that people will see that positive change in you.
Okay.
But we're not talking about other people right now because we're focusing on you.
That's good.
How awesome you are. So get into the game, challenge those flaws, get into your own belief structure, and really develop the ideas in this safe environment, because we have always kind of promoted that D&D is a safe place. Get in that safe environment, develop the tools, the interpersonal stuff, whatever it is that you're working on there in that small scale, to challenge some of the beliefs that you have, to challenge those internal kind of conflicts that you're dealing with, because you can use that fantasy world to develop something more powerful than anything.
That's right.
It's so powerful. I had to, it just exuded from me. The most powerful thing that you can develop is trust. And that's trust in yourself.
Oh, yes.
Right? I can choose to make these decisions. I can choose to deal with the consequences. And it is more important than the most important thing, right? I can trust myself to handle myself delicately with my flaws. I can trust myself to work in a positive manner against my challenges.
If you don't feel like you trust yourself, that's another belief that you have.
That's another one that you can work on.
Right? And you're defining your world,
And you are not alone. Everyone is doing this, whether they know it or not. Everyone is living within their beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? And
you have to.
You have to. You can't not. Right? So use your character, use your game, use the things that are fun, that you enjoy, that you want to interact with, to challenge yourself to become a better individual, because this is a safe place to do it. And then you can take these lessons and move them out into the big bad world. And that's going to make your D&D game better.
Coming back
around, right? All of these things are going to now address what it is that you are bringing to the game.
It's just a wonderful, positive, heroic feedback loop.
If you want it to be.
Yep.
If you want it to be. And that's really where it kind of leads to the one big critic, I think. Yeah, the big critic. Oh. No. I think the big critic that you have to worry about is the voice.
Oh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Me.
You. Me.
And I was not wrong when I said Byron.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm my own worst Furbolg.
It's true, though. You talked about the way that we talk to ourselves. Right? You talk about the voice in your head. Right? And we all have a voice in your head. Whether we actually speak in our minds to ourselves or not, it's there.
Yeah.
Right? It's that all that chatter you have in your brain, right? It's said that one of the biggest effects on performance that like an athlete has, or anyone has, is for like self-performance, is the existence of something called negative self-talk. Right? If you can remove that, that's the one biggest thing, the one biggest boost in performance that you can get, right? Above everything else. Which is crazy. Above training, of course you need to train, right? If you're an athlete. But removing that negative talk will do more than more training. It's crazy. So I want to sit on this idea of the voice in your head. Okay? That's what is the voice in your head? It is literally the voice in your head that talks to you.
Great definition.
Right? It helps us work through our problems, right? Helps us make decisions, reach conclusions, reinforce our beliefs that we have.
Sure.
For example, when we say, nat 20, awesome. That's a voice in your head saying that's awesome, right? I need to go to the washroom soon. That's a voice in your head, right?
That nat 20 one's a super deceptive, sneaky one.
Right.
What happens when you roll a nat 20 at the table?
Right.
Next time you do, check what you say.
Yep.
Right? Or you're just like, yeah. Or you're like, okay, I guess I get to do it.
Or like, oh man, I used up all my nat 20s. What about next time?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or another self-talk would be, should I make an athletics check or an acrobatics roll? Simple as that. Right? It's just all that chatter.
Interesting.
Right? This is not negative self-talk. This is just
self-talk. Just the voice. Okay.
Just the voice.
Okay.
And all that, again, all that blabber in your head is what psychologists call self-talk.
Okay.
All right. So what is negative self-talk, though?
Oh, this is the beast.
This is the beast. Say you said something insensitive by accident at the last D&D session.
Oh, I did that.
Right. And someone got hurt.
Oh, I did
because of that.
Yeah.
Right. Healthy self-talk to yourself, so not negative, would sound something like, wow, that came off really bad last night. Right. I should have an honest chat with this person so that I can avoid doing that in the future. Right. And that'll be great.
Good old communication.
Right. It's healthy, productive.
Yeah.
Negative self-talk, though, sounds something like, man, I'm such a lousy person. How could I say that to them? They didn't deserve it. Right. They probably hate me now. I would. Super negative. Right.
Yeah.
But
weirdly fair.
And weirdly familiar.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, not fair.
I don't know if it's fair at all.
Familiar.
It is what it is.
Familiar, yes.
Right, but familiar. Because I believe that most of us have very dominant negative self-talk.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because, man, we have this negative self-talk. And the worst thing is we believe our self-talk, whether negative or not.
Mm-hmm.
We believe our self-talk and assume that what we feel in that moment reflects the way that things actually are in reality, right? And that's just not always the case, right? Is it an apple? Is it an orange? Well, it just is a thing, right?
Truly.
Whether it's apple or orange depends on how you talk to yourself, what you believe, right? But why do we engage in negative self-talk? Like it's so horrible. Why do we even do it? Right? And
I have some guesses, but I'm going to let you go first.
Like with all things, not all things, but pretty much all things human, it goes back to way back.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got to be survival based.
Yeah, our human survival instincts, way back there, right? Because the humans that survived are the ones who are prepared for the worst case scenario. And that's where the negativity comes from. Right. There might be a tiger here. I got to prepare for that. I prepare for that, but there still might be a tiger here.
Tigers.
I'll prepare for that.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the guys are like, nah, tigers, they don't come here. That one time there was a tiger there, they're gone. Yeah. Right. So then the people who didn't have a penchant for negative self-talk are all dead. So as a result, our modern day human instincts favors negative thinking. So we naturally are predisposed to negativity and negative self-talk. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
It's not always unhealthy.
I was going to say, it doesn't always sound like I'm just going to pretend that there's a tiger in that bush, because there might be. And it's super bad if there is.
Yeah.
It's nothing if there isn't.
Right? It's not always unhealthy. Like, oh man, you're slow. You need to get faster.
Right.
You gotta train harder. You can do this.
Yeah.
You're so slow.
Yeah.
You gotta go, right? But it becomes unhealthy when it becomes something obsessive and like repetitive. Because what happens when you repeat things, it reinforces that belief.
Yes.
Right. And the impact of negative self-talk is large. Okay. Huge, gigantor. Right. A negative self-talk can lead to feelings of, hopelessness. Right. I think going right down in there, right? It can cause you to give up.
Yep.
On things. Absolutely. Has that happened to me before? Yes. A lot. Especially in my younger years.
Yes.
Right.
Well, this is where we lack the experience, the knowledge, right?
Right. Yep. Well, I didn't even know about negative self-talk back then. Society in general didn't really talk about it much.
No.
Right?
No.
It leads to damage to your self-esteem. Right? And your mental health will deteriorate.
Of course it will.
Right? Of course.
Yep.
Right? If imagine you had just some person beside you just whispering in your head all the bad things about you, whether it's true or not. And you just heard it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's going to affect you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? A bully doesn't have to necessarily do anything to you to be a bully and ruin your day. Right? And negative self-talk is linked to anxiety for sure. And includes fear of failure. Right? It leads to that. And it leads to making more mistakes. And more mistakes and failure leads to more negative self-talk.
Well, when you start focusing more on the failures than the production or anything else. Then
right. And so more negative self-talk, more failures. More failures, more. It's a bad positive feedback loop.
Right.
Because it gets stronger.
Yep.
Right. And that's not a positive thing. Right? But it's a positive feedback loop.
Right.
That sounds horrible. Right? Like, Sean, that's horrible. Why are you making me feel bad? Right? Because I want to talk about how we can actually work against it. Because we all have this negative self-talk, and it's not quite possible to avoid it. I don't think you can stop it.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like, if it's not one thing, it'll be another.
Okay. Yes, please continue. I want to put a pin in that.
Yes.
Because there's something I want to say.
But I think you can work against it. Okay. And it starts with awareness of your negative self-talk and your self-talk in general, right? Learn to recognize when you are talking negatively to yourself. like, man, last time I made a mistake, so I'll probably make the same mistake again. I'm just gonna mess up. Oh, wait, what am I saying to myself? I might not be able to stop that thought from coming, but learning to recognize it is your first step, right? My character voice sounds so horrible. Like everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Right. Negative self-talk.
Or terrible. Or right. Yeah.
Right. I'm never going to get the hang of all these rules and what rolls and what dice to use. Right. Oh man, this is so hard. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Negative self-talk. Learn to recognize those as saying, you know what? I'm just going to categorize them as negative self-talk in my mind. Right. And just acknowledging that negative self-talk is coming out of you and that thought that you just had was negative self-talk can be very powerful. Because what it does is it lets you take one step forward in separating the negative self-talk from who you are. Right? Because it's not the truth anymore necessarily. This is now, this is me just being negative to myself. I'm that dude whispering horrible things in my ear 24/7. Right? So it separates you a little bit. That's step one. Step two, there's many things you can do, but I believe probably the most effective way of doing it is reframing. Right? Okay. Reframe that negative self-talk into something else.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can avoid that negative self-talk. Because man, that's tiring. You can't catch it all. Right? So what you want to do is when you do notice yourself talking to yourself negatively like that, like telling yourself that I can't have these thoughts. These are horrible. You shouldn't have these thoughts, Sean. Right? You'll probably add even more pressure and anxiety around avoiding that negative self-talk. Right? So reframing it works like this. Right? It involves rethinking and rejigging that negative self-talk.
Getting
rejigging, into something productive.
Yes.
Right? So you have that negative self-talk. Oh, my character voice isn't good.
Yeah.
That was bad. Yeah. What I just tried to do, right? What is it, my Italian one? It's turned into some weird
Jamaican
Luigi thing.
Yeah.
Right? But you can add on to that, reframe it. So my character voice sucks, right? But it's still way better than doing nothing. That's awesome.
Right.
It changes it. Yes, it was bad.
Yeah.
But it's good because I did it.
Yeah.
Right? Last time I messed up. Right? Oh, next time I'll be more prepared. Because I see it now. Reframing that. Going this deep into RP is making me feel scared. I don't know if I can do it. Right?
That's a good one.
But wait, Sean, this is when I get to be brave. I want to be a braver, but this is my chance to be brave.
Yeah.
Right? I missed it last time. Next time, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Next time it's scary, man, I get to be brave. Right? Then all of a sudden you're excited. It changes that, reframes that thought into something positive.
Yes.
Right? So reframing. Yes. And you won't be able to do it all the time. And you will you will not notice your self-talk.
Yeah. But
it's just a practice again. Negative self-talk. Don't think bad about yourself. Think, man, I caught that negative self-talk. Awesome. Right? I'm going to keep going. And then you have that negative self-talk, repeat the same thing, and then reframe it. And every time you catch it, repeat the same thing, reframe it. And then eventually, through repetition, your beliefs will change. Right? And you might still think to yourself, man, that voice wasn't good, but it won't be negative anymore. Right? So you still can't avoid that feeling, but you can reframe it, and it's not quote unquote negative anymore. Right? And again, there are other techniques to doing that. Like there's things like I don't know, putting an elastic band around your wrist, and then every time you notice yourself having negative self-talk, snap it against yourself to like shock yourself out of that loop of negative.
It's not shock. It's training the body to have a negative response. Like when you touch a hot oven or a hot stove, that burning sensation is not good. Don't do that. when you do that thing mentally, you can train yourself physically to be physically adverse to it.
Yeah.
I did that for swearing for a long time. Actually, for many years, I used to carry around because I didn't want to swear. I wanted to sound more professional. I was young in my career and whatnot. Now I swear all the time, baby.
I don't give a fuck.
And yet you're the one who swore. So no, there is like that physical reminder. Oh man, such a good friend. I do want to note on this thing that voice, that self-talk that we're talking about, the negative voice specifically, not the one that you're like, what would be a good idea to do here? And then you've got like this creative.
Well, because self-talk can be like, you're awesome, you can do this.
It can, yeah.
Right? That's also self-talk.
But that's that alive interaction versus the mechanical. Mechanistic, sorry. My apologies. Negative. The alive versus the mechanistic, right? When you have an alive conversation into the forum of your creativity or into your intellectual expanse, whatever, great, awesome. It's those intrusive thoughts that bubble up from nowhere and don't seem to be coming from anywhere. Those aren't you. Those are, like you said, a process and a system that's been built into us and our monkey selves that have existed for so long to move us forward through the evolutionary chain.
Yes.
It is your kind of subconscious bubbling up something through your gut into a feeling to make you more safe. And sometimes safe is not the good choice or the better choice. But one of my favorite ones that helped me out so much was from the oatmeal, was the blurch.
Yes.
Right? Pretending that voice is someone else. Make that voice have an accent. So you know it's not you. Tell it you can only talk to me if you're talking to me in
that Italian voice.
In that Italian voice, right? Because you're not me. And that negative, we can use that negative self-talk tool.
It's a me, negative self-talk.
It's me, and I'm telling you, you don't want to go in there. You're like, yeah, okay, thanks. I'm gonna go. But you're a tool, and I recognize you as a tool. Just like you said, reframing it. And accepting that there is a difference between the two of you, right? Because it is not you. It is something else within you that's doing things in the background, right?
It's your primal monkey brain survival instinct.
So if yours is terrible, over time, maybe you've taught it to be terrible, right? It doesn't mean that you can't tame it. You can't adjust it. You can't reframe it. You can say like shower thoughts. That's really funny. Or, oh, that's weird. You can say that to that thing that's in there and be like, whoa, it wasn't that bad. That I know you feel like that, but it wasn't. These people are good people.
Well, because what you're doing there is you're redefining your belief systems and redefining. And because you're redefining your belief, you're redefining the world.
Yeah.
Right. And who you are.
And if you're someone like me who hates bullies and whatnot, you're like, no, F you. I am going to make it better.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro. Do you even lift? Right? Like whatever you want to say, you can overcome it. Right?
Yeah.
And just like everybody else out there in the YouTubes and all the other platforms, overcome the algorithm.
Well, overcome your negative self-talk thing. Like, I'm not the type of person who would click on the like and subscribe button.
I think you might be.
But it's not you. That's your dirty, primal survival instinct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to work against that and just be brave and click on those 3 buttons.
Get into the feast mindset, not the famine. There's enough likes for everyone.
Right? Join the Discord.
Yeah.
Right?
And then tell us what your favorite reframing of negative talk has been.
There you go.
Yeah. I had to come up with that one on the fly. Good job, Brady. Good job. But it's interesting because this idea of that negative self-talk or that voice or intrusive thoughts, it is like one of the first things that hits us in the morning. It is one of the last things that hits us before we go to bed, right? Something about the pillow. I don't know. They're coming from the pillow. Punch your pillow.
Horrible pillow. It's a whispering. Horrible. Everything's in your ears.
Punch your pillow. Don't let that happen.
Punch your pillow before it punches you.
This is where I think this is a great example of the world that we live in, the games that we play in. They are generally a world of hurt.
Yeah, they are.
They are. And I'm doing this a little tongue in cheek. Obviously, some are more drastic than others or more serious than others. But generally, we have a lot of obstacles that we have to get through every day, whether we're in game or not. And as much as I would love to focus this all in game, like I said, we're still people sitting at the table playing a game. Right?
Yes, like real people with real problems.
Real people. Those are not just AI bots on the other end of the UTT screen. Not yet.
And then there'll be real AIs, which are real people eventually. Then we're screwed.
How amazing would it be if it was like Truman Show, though? Like people have to come over and play a game within a game that they're playing.
It is the Truman Show.
Is it? Are we back on that? Okay, cool. Anyway, so that would just be whatever. Intrusive thought.
I'm the star. You're the actor.
Oh, is that it? I thought I was the star, and I could prove it. So now that we've talked about the beliefs, right? Beliefs will then do something else very fundamental to how we deal with games in the world.
Okay,
and that's going to be to establish our biases and our perspectives. Right? Like you said, it's an apple.
Yes.
No, it's an orange. I'm perceiving this as different than other people. I'm perceiving it as the same as other people. Right? I like apples. I like oranges. Those are biases. Right? When we get into this, when we start dealing with ourselves in a game, right? We're pushing those perspectives and biases through the filters of our characters into what's going on. So once again, we're still creating from what we've got. But in this case, we don't enter the table alone because these things are attached to us, right? They are the foundations within our own emotions, our actions, our everything.
Yes.
Right? And so these become the ghosts that we bring to the table.
Haunted D&D.
We're all haunted. We all have baggage.
Whether you want to or not to.
Right? And so when we're going through these things, like you said before, you rolled a nat 20. What's the first thought that comes to mind after you roll that nat 20? What ghost are you bringing to the table?
And man, those ghosts are with us constantly.
And it's so insidious, right? They're quiet because you expect them to be quiet. They're in the ums and the ahs and the splits between the words because that's where they live.
Everywhere. And because they're so ubiquitous, we don't see them anymore.
No, you're used to it, right? You've mitigated it.
Yeah, they're in our characters. They're in how we role play. They role play. They're in like how we build characters. They're in how we treat other players at the table.
And that's all that normalization. And we've talked about this stuff before, right? This is just going deeper into this.
Yes. Ghosts.
So why can we then turn our ghosts into something interesting? Right? When we're looking at what's going on, what our immediate reactions are, that mechanistic response that we've built in there, right? That we automatically fill those spaces with, we can challenge those moments. Like we can challenge that negative self-talk. And be like, that's a nat 20. That's awesome. I'm going to describe something cool. I'm not going to be meek or quiet in this moment. I am going to take a big swing and we're going to see what happens. Maybe the DM doesn't like it. Maybe the other players don't like it. But you know what? I want to try it. I don't want to do what I used to do. And that ghost will haunt me no more.
Right. Step one, recognize the ghost.
Right. Exactly.
Step two, do something.
So now this becomes really awesome when we start dealing with kind of moral dilemmas in the game. In the game. Okay. Right? Because this is, once again, being influenced by everything that we've got coming into it. All the ghosts that are haunting us.
That's why moral dilemmas are so fun.
Yes.
In the game.
Because they challenge you on so many levels if you let them, right? You can look at just the top layer, or you can dig in deep, right? And that's a lot of times where we get into kind of analysis paralysis. Where we're like, oh, I could do this, but I could do that. Or what does this mean? Or what is that clue attached to? Or what's right? And there's so many questions floating around that we get stuck. We can go deep with that internally, right? We don't have to stay at the top level.
Yes.
And that's a good thing, right?
Yes. Yep.
It can be a good thing. It can also put you into a place where you're like, well, why am I even thinking about this? Because I'm no good at this stuff and somebody else will figure it out. And right. It can put you into either one of those, but that's your choice. Do you want to attack it or do you want to let it attack you?
Absolutely.
Right. And that allows you to identify your moral identity. Right. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? Who gets to kick you? Who do you kick?
It's interesting because I think most people don't really know their own morals.
No.
Right. They feel it. You
You
know
have
it.
them. You know them.
Yeah, but you don't.
Do you challenge them? Do you question them?
If you list it out, it's hard, probably.
Yes, because they're these intangible things that we just have accepted.
Yeah, it's not okay to kill people. But in what situations is it okay? Maybe this situation is okay. Maybe in that situation it's okay.
Right.
Like it's pretty nuanced.
It does. And so when we're getting into these things, I really think that the deeper you go, you have a question to ask.
Okay.
Of yourself, right? And it's also kind of a famous-ish Batman line from The Dark Knight of
I'm Batman.
No, close. Do you want to know how I got these scars? Because we're challenging what's within us, and I think we experience a higher level of connection to the game, to the role play, to everything else when we challenge our characters. When we do this to ourselves, we're going to get kind of an exponentially larger reaction, right? Because the value of what's happening in change is far more impactful in yourself rather than even focus through that kind of stained glass of your character into the game. And while you can still make changes of self, come to epiphanies at the table where you're like, I didn't know I was that kind of person, right? I didn't know you were that kind of person.
You thief.
Right? Maybe it's something relatively acceptable as stealing in a game, right?
In a game, yeah.
Right? Because it's just like, oh yeah, we all do it. We all get away with whatever we can get away with.
Right.
But why is that okay?
Why doesn't anyone stop you?
Right.
Like, why didn't I stop you? I think it's wrong. Do I think it's wrong?
Do I think it's wrong enough? Is it one of those nuanced areas where it's okay because it doesn't actually hurt anybody? But then am I breaking my own fourth wall? And anyway, so this is a tough question that I'm sure a therapist would be hitting me for asking this of people just in general. Right. Yes. To analyze and look at, like, just pull out your little demon babies that live inside you and just like
all the demon babies
play with them for a little bit. Right. But it is an interesting idea that we all have this haunted nature to us. However we show ourselves, there's always skeletons in the closet.
Yes.
Right. And this beyond moral dilemmas. When we're playing games, when we're dealing with real life stuff, we get into the idea of conflict and conflict in our role play. Now, whether that's, like I said, in real life, your next HR meeting, or that's you're sitting down at a table and you're negotiating with that NPC who's the quest giver for how much they're going to pay you. Maybe they're going to rename the town. Maybe they're going to give you all the firstborns. What are you after?
Wow.
Right? What is
firstborn when
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Or the kids. That's the baby goats. So when we're putting on these personas, right, we're trying to adjust parts of ourselves, but it still allows us to go forth and engage in conflict resolution that exists in a parallel with our own. And it can become very sloggy and it can become very tough sometimes. And a lot of times, like you kind of mentioned before, I'm getting too deep into this role play. Yeah. It's getting kind of scary.
Yeah.
There are times if you notice what it is that you're doing, you can be like, whoa, I'm challenging my own morals, or I'm challenging this character's foundations, which is kind of shaking some of my own timbers.
Well, because when you're challenging when your beliefs are being challenged, your identity is being challenged.
Yes.
And like, am I invalidating my whole sense of self? And that's, you feel vulnerable and scared and like, well, terrified, really. Because you're like, what am I if I'm not this?
Well, if you haven't built the trust with yourself to go and explore a place, if you haven't had the experience or the time to kind of do this right? Like, these things compound on each other to build kind of like a negative inertia.
Yep.
Which is just inertia.
In the other direction.
It's the inertia of staying still versus the inertia of moving forward, right? And
it's the same inertia.
It's the same inertia, but one tends to keep you in motion, one tends to keep you still.
Yes.
Right. And so whichever side of that equation you're engaging on, it just kind of comes to light, and it could be far more aggressive, far more deep, and far more personalized and intimate on one side of the conversation versus the other.
Yes.
Right. And so when we layer all of these biases and perspectives on top of each other, the reframing question is can we find the beauty of our own systems? Right? I have ghosts, yes, but I also have angels. Right? There are things that I do that are good. There are things that I'm a kind person, so I'm generally kind. Does that mean that it's faked that I'm an introvert who's kind, so I let other people go through the door first? So they're like, oh, well, you're chivalrous. Yeah, I just don't want to go through. Like, you just go because I don't want to be in your way. Right? It's the same thing, right? But you can reframe it. No, I'm going to let you go through because it's the polite thing. Here, let me open the door for you. Versus, I just don't want to be in your way. Reframe it.
But you still get to go first, and that's great.
Sure.
Right? And you feel great about it.
Yes.
And no matter what, I've made your day better.
Yeah.
And that's great. Me.
So like you said, that's step one, is identifying it, right?
Yes.
Can you find the beauty in your own system? And the second part is, do you let yourself feel the beauty, or do you enjoy the gratitude and find the peace that will give you?
That one's really hard.
It's so hard. Gratitude is so hard.
Like emotions?
And it's just so much damage. It is an unfair thing sometimes to ask ourselves what we're good at.
It's not unfair. We're just really bad at it.
We're so bad at it. And that's why it feels unfair.
Yeah.
That's the talk.
Because I think a lot of us feel like we don't deserve it.
Well, because we focus on the negative.
Yes.
Right. We focus on the weakness. We focus on the flaws. We focus on what drags us down. But if you can find that, right, you can also protect yourself and shield yourself from the negative side of it. Mm-hmm. You go, yes, I may have stumbled there, but I'm still a nice person. I'm still generous. I'm still giving. I'm still genuine. These things can help us to change.
I think
everything else. They do if you let them. But you have to go there to experience it. Mm-hmm. And when you're there, because you've got all of this stuff going on, and because you have ghosts and angels within this, right? I think it's fair to imagine ourselves and our beliefs as kind of a kaleidoscopic creation. Yeah, one of those twisty, pretty things, right? I think it's very fair, because sometimes when we twist it, it's not very interesting, and other times when we twist it, it's absolutely amazing and it blows us away how beautiful it is.
Okay,
but you gotta play with it. You gotta twist it. You gotta adjust the perspective of what's going on.
Sounds like a good time.
Sounds like a real good time. Give me a couple mushrooms and a kaleidoscope, and I'll give you a good weekend. So it's.
How much is it going to cost? Jeez.
Man, I don't know, like $50. I don't know. No, the best part of getting into this is the viewing, right? Wow, what was that we talked about? Not Kintsugi. Kintsugi, right? Enjoying the flaws, right? Celebrating ourselves, finding not only the holes in the kaleidoscope, but the bright sheens of color, right? And allowing ourselves to sit in that moment of gratitude for both. Right?
Yes.
Flaws are flaws for a reason. We've experienced bad things. They shape us.
Yeah.
Right? Great things have also happened. They shape us.
And great things have come out from bad things.
Right. And if this were a party, your own TTRPG party in your head, bad guys, good guys, and everything, right? You balance that party's dynamics, right? That Inside Out movie, right? Where different people take controls at different times. Great. It is the best part of you. And we have to accept that it is finished, not perfect in this moment, right? I've done everything I can do. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what negative thing is being said. I did my best today. I'm going to have a good night's sleep.
Yep.
Right? Because tomorrow's a whole new war. Whole new battle. Whole new whatever you want to say. Right? And we get into dealing with this in the game as well as in life. But in the game side of this, we can get into a narrative feedback loop. So narrative feedback loop, right? So this is where we go and we use our actions. We actively play the game. We get beneficial consequences for that. And that teaches us that you go do a good thing, you get a thing. Right? And then we go do more things. And then we succeed. And then we get more good things.
Yes.
And then we get more enjoyment.
That is D&D.
That is D&D, right?
Yeah.
That's that hero's journey. You see a need, you go deal with it, and you come back changed, right? Well, in this case, that narrative feedback loop you can use to bolster your real world confidence, your real world competence.
Yes.
Right? Both of them are extremely important.
Super. Correct.
And you can use the story that isn't a book. I don't think you can get this from a book. I don't think you can really get this from
because the story, in a book, you're passive.
Yes.
Right? You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just experiencing, you're taking it, right? You're taking it. Whereas in D&D, you are the one doing it because your character is doing it. And everything that the character is you.
Yes. So when we get to that, right, you are now a player-driven plot, right? It is you who are developing a greater confidence. It is you who are developing a greater participation.
Absolutely.
Right? It is you who are now taking control of your story. It doesn't matter what real life is doing. You are taking control of your story. You are the hero and you have the sidekicks for your awesome story that is developing a positive loop within you, right? Or maybe you're playing bad guys, but you're still doing awesome stuff, and that stuff is allowing you to see the
protagonist.
Correct.
Right? Because your D&D characters are the protagonists of the D&D story, and you are the protagonist of your story.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the parallels are extreme.
They are.
Yeah.
And one great way to do that is to see how you approach conflict in D&D. So you come into a room and you get a description of a character or group or monster, whatever it is. Take note next time this happens based on your belief of your character's relative power to what they are experiencing. Do you believe that you are more powerful than what you are experiencing? How do you treat them? Do you believe that you're equal?
Yep.
How do you treat them? Do you believe that they are more powerful than you? How do you treat them? How does your belief set the scene for the role play that's about to come? We're a level 3 group of adventurers. We wander into an ancient dragon's horde. There's the dragon. How do we act?
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
Right? Versus we're a level 20 party and we walk in on a group of bandits. How do we act?
Right.
Right?
I like your pants.
Given me. There's a huge difference. And a lot of that is going to be pushed by our belief of our perspective of that scene.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So we're going to have higher confidence, higher than normal confidence if we're coming in overpowered.
Well, that's exactly like real life. Right?
Oh, sure.
Like you see some guy in dirty jeans and an old worn t-shirt walking into, the Lamborghini store.
Yeah.
Right? And and the salesman will act according to their belief of this guy. Oh, he doesn't look like he's gonna buy anything. They will treat that person in a certain way.
No, he's a hardworking dude who owns his own constructions. Blah blah blah. Right? He just came in after work. Right? Or maybe he does this on purpose to get good service. He won't go to somebody who judges the book by its cover. Right? He doesn't deal with those salespeople. Right? You never know, but it is an interesting way of seeing how you deal with things, seeing how you get. I'm going to call it an artificial flux, but a flux to your attitudes based on how you perceive the other within the scene, whether it's another character, another person, another player, another group, whatever it is. Take note on how your beliefs take over your perspective. Good notes, multicolored and everything. Now, when we do this, and after we've maybe done that, right, remember that when we're in this game, we are not alone, right? Just like you're not alone when you're with your demons, everyone has them, right? You're not alone when you're in the game. And whether you are collaborating with the players as a group, or you're collaborating across the table with the dungeon master who's assisting you in the story, make them an ally. Make them participate in what you are building.
Yes.
Because I think you need to choose, and this is interesting. It parallels your idea before, but I think you need to choose whether you are a builder or a decorator when you're playing.
Okay.
So both are important, each lackluster without the other one. But one is building what they want to have in the future. They're setting the framework. They're going places. They're set goals. They are identifying these beliefs to move forward, onward, and upward. And the other ones are decorating the space, adding flavor, adding all that extra like floral verbiage. They're filling out the yes ands. They're kind of getting into the corners and really kind of painting everything to make it pretty and nice as they go along.
While someone builds a house, the other person builds a home in that house.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Right. And when we do this, sharing small, just like in the trust episode, sharing small things leads us to building bigger, better things. Right. So it gets really kind of interesting and fun that we get to then develop all three of those overcoming tools: the education, the application, and the experience. When we get in there and we start to push someone else to either become our builder or our decorator.
Oh, how convenient.
How convenient. Yeah. And they're both positive, right? Because they reinforce each other as they go forward. And when you start doing that, I mean, little waves can start to create a push on a big ship. Right? If what you're dealing with is a ton of bias, a ton of perspective in a negative sense, it takes time to turn the battleship.
Yes.
Right? But little waves consistently can do that. Starting that small positive loop can build and build and build into something really, really dramatic.
Yes.
Right?
Like a small propeller, just pushing the boat.
Small propeller, just a little bit at a time, right? Yeah. And so when we start to use the feedback loop, not only just to make us feel better, but as a tool to propel advantage to what we're doing.
Advantage, I like it.
Whoa, nomenclature, right? We also get to understand and get very comfortable with the idea that the first rough cut of whatever we're doing is never polished.
That is a great point. Wow. It's true.
Right? You get used to having something that needs to be worked on.
Right. And knowing that ahead of time.
Yes. It's not your best, right? You cannot do in 5 hours what you can do in 100 hours. You just can't. The math doesn't work for some reason, right?
Yeah.
So when we put these things out, hey, I think our character should take over a kingdom. How do you want to do that? I don't know.
Have you taken over a village before? No. What about like a store?
Oh, no.
No? A camp?
Yeah. We have a camp. We camped last night. It was awesome.
Step 1, done.
Step 1, check. But then we can use other people who may have done this, who may have different knowledge, different application, different experience, and they can lend that to the system, right? So when we get to use the advantage of the positive cycle, we get to turn the battleship. We get to understand that everybody's going to do a little bit of work on this idea.
You turned my battleship.
What a different game. But then that's going to get multiple people propelling the same idea forward.
Yes.
Right? And all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, look, other people want to work with me. My ideas aren't terrible.
Right.
Right?
Well, I gave a little nugget out and you polished it into something really cool now that we can both enjoy.
Absolutely. And this...
Welcome to Caffeine and Cantrips.
Welcome to Caffeine and Cantrips, the place where we talk about psychological resilience. And that
ounce.
Yeah, no. This is really going to develop psychological resilience. This is going to allow you to accept the game's challenges, accept the puzzles, accept the flaws, accept the weaknesses, the vulnerabilities, everything that you're dealing with, lean into them, and know that you are safe and you are progressively kissing your mic. You are
leaning into it.
You're leaning hard into it. Never go full mic press.
Full mic press.
Full mic press. Yeah, I think that this is really important because we can develop why are you a cantankerous sod in the game, but you're a pushover in real life? You can develop the happy place between those two,
please,
right? Right, but also other people going, no, you're an asshole. No, I'm not. I'm a kind person.
Maybe you're a cantankerous sod in the game because you can't be in real life.
Perhaps,
right? Because you are that.
Perhaps, right? Maybe you're in the service industry and you're like, I'm not working right now.
Oh, it's all coming out.
It's coming back. The rage. whatever it
How's
is,
this for a tip?
whatever it is, that boost, that shift to the battleship is going to create a inertia that becomes difficult to break. And that's that resilience. That's when that negative intrusive thought comes in, you're like, oh, that's not a big deal.
Okay. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because I'm more successful than I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I trip up or I don't succeed, I didn't fail yet. It's just part of the process.
Yes, because this first time, it never comes out perfect.
Right.
But it's awesome because now next time will be better.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And from that, we move from little waves. We get into surfs up.
Dude.
We get some big waves.
Bro.
This is where we start digging into the collaborative storytelling. So everything up till now has been really dealing with the self, looking at the individual, right? Reading our own systems, reading our own biases.
Okay.
At least what I've been talking about.
Yes.
Right? And finding the best, finding the worst, finding how beautiful the worst is as well as the best.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are confident enough. We are ready. We are chasing the tail of the dragon by allowing others into kind of our space. And that's the collaborative storytelling part.
Okay.
Because you're confident and you know that this person isn't out to get you. That person isn't trying to destroy you. Hey, maybe they are.
And that's okay.
And that's okay because it's a game.
Yes.
And in real life, that's okay because you have a shovel. But what we're really talking about is getting into these big waves now that move everything. So not only are you naturally expanding your expression in all areas because you're more confident or you're more happy, you're more satisfied, you're more willing to take bigger risks, right? You at the start of this conversation may have been a 20 strength character that's afraid to, help somebody, I don't know, lift the cart out of the ditch.
Oh.
But now you're like, no, I'm a 20 strength character. I'm going to do some Herculean stuff and I'm going to push this temple over right at the top of these massive pillars.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm willing to take bigger swings.
Yeah.
I'm happy and confident to go above and beyond where I was instead of below and dismissal. So get into that. Get into expressing yourself in more areas. Get into expressing the gratitude for the idea of the next rocket ship, because the rocket ship is shooting for the moon, right?
And Mars.
Appreciate
Elon.
Yeah, we'll shoot a bow and arrow at your truck.
Yeah. Right.
It's this is what it is.
You like range attacks? I can give you range attacks.
You start accepting shooting for the moon as kind of a base level.
Yes.
Instead of, let's take over a camp. Right? That becomes kind of first step stuff. And is that good? Is that bad? Once again, I'm not going to put judgment on this. Right?
Yeah.
What I am going to say is that you will start doing more and developing more knowledge, more experience, more everything faster and faster, because as you start adding more things to that kaleidoscope that we were working on, that you were dealing with.
Yes.
Right? You will start to uncover and understand that making the holes in that, coming up with the big plans, but not decorating it is half the fun.
Yes. Yes.
Right? It allows you to experiment with your flaws confidently because you know they won't drag you down. You know that they are now sources for growth.
Well, and you know that engaging with those flaws will only make them better.
Yes.
Right? Less flaws.
Yeah. And then you might have good problems that you'll run out of flaws to work on.
I don't think so. I mean, no, I don't think it's a good thing to run out of flaws because, again, flaws, like I was told, are opportunities for improvement.
Sure.
And if you have nowhere to improve, you've stagnated.
They're not the only opportunities for improvement, but they are opportunities for improvement.
Well, I think your flaws are relative.
Sure.
Too, right?
Sure.
So once you get the big flaws out, other flaws will seem bigger.
Sure.
Right? And they're just, again, opportunities too.
Yeah.
And you always, I think you always want to be working on something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what you are working on is not what David Goggins is working on.
Oh, heck no. Heck no.
Call us?
But
that's a scary call of the day. Woo.
Like he works on more in like the first hour he wakes up than I do in like the entire week.
No, I challenge you, Mr. Goggins, to make me cry.
Pick up the phone.
Yes. So now that we're out there, we're creating this kaleidoscope, we're creating this lattice that can allow others to play with it, right? You can now confidently let other people play with your mess. You can allow them to engage with your flaws, right? And you can open this up because this is what's going to open not only our personal, but our character plot hooks and our personal quests. Right.
Yes.
And generally speaking, when you're more confident, it's easier to make a choice. It's easier to make a decision.
Yep.
Right? Even if it's the wrong decision, it's easier to make a decision.
Yes, because you're confident that whatever happens, you'll deal with it one way or another.
Absolutely.
And you'll be okay.
You will. And you will be okay.
Yes.
Right? And when we start doing this, clear, decisive choices are the perfect breeding grounds for yes and statements.
Well, because yes and is very clear and very decisive.
But I also know
it's not I guess maybe.
Right. But I also know what I am yes anding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You have set the stage. Correct. I know what I'm walking into. And we loop.
I guess maybe. That's a weird improv game.
I guess.
Maybe.
So when we've done this, we now know that other people could play with our mess. We know that you're a builder or you're a decorator. So we also will then understand logically that building a doghouse is kind of the same as building a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Kinda. Right? It's one room. Okay, great.
What, it's a skyscraper for ants?
It's a skyscraper for dogs. It's the best skyscraper. A wolf scraper. It's going to allow you to develop the education, the application, the experience. And I know I keep hammering on these, but this is, I think, the engine that moves us and will move these biases, will move these beliefs in the right or wrong direction. Right. And so we got to put the train on the track in the proper orientation and allow that thing to start chugging. Okay. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be slow at the beginning, but then it gets easier and easier because you get used to the grind, essentially. Right. And so now it's not only about creating an environment where you can become the foundation. It's about you. It's about helping the people around you.
Oh, yes.
Right. Because now you are a leader. If you are a person with a positive mental cycle, you are automatically a leader. You might not be very experienced at it. You might not be very good at it, but it's rare to find people that are genuinely just positive.
Yes.
That are choosing to go places and do things and like more and more. Right? We find people who are very happy.
Because it's so scary.
It is.
It's so scary.
It is.
Yeah.
But we also see that they're very successful. In game, in role play, in conflict, in exploration, and in life.
Because you have to take those chances.
Yeah.
Right? To grow.
Yeah.
And that's how you become successful.
Yeah. But what an amazing goal to have.
Become a leader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's not for you.
Oh, man, I don't like it.
Yes.
I don't like being a leader.
I know.
But it is great to be able to be a leader.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't like being a leader because, I don't know, I've negative self-talk. That's straight up what it is, right?
Right.
Not believing that you can't be a leader, you'll disappoint people, right? But leaders are wonderful and so necessary for all aspects of life, right? So,
and one of the best things that a leader can actually really teach you is gas is great, but brakes are also equally important.
Hold up. Pump them brakes.
Pump them brakes, guy. They are generally individuals who have more experience than you or have more knowledge than you or have more application than you. They can give you that knowledge from their experience, right? They can pass on what they have and teach you all gas ain't great. All brakes ain't great, right?
Right.
This is the feeling that you need to be in. And this feeling that I'm teaching you today is better than the one yesterday. And tomorrow you're going to have more of those.
And what's interesting, I think, is when you're talking about being a leader and someone's more experienced than you, we tend to think of leaders as like this person that is just above and beyond the non-leaders. But really, most of the time, they're just a leader in this aspect of life or whatever, right? So in this time, in this way, I'm a leader. But in other times, maybe I'm not, right?
So how does that, so practical application, what does that look like? Okay, I started playing D&D, my last game. It's great. It went for a year. Awesome. I want to be the rules lawyer of the next game.
Right.
I want to be the person who is on the other side, just making sure that everything's fair and everything, and nobody has to look anything up because I probably should know it or have a really general, like a good comprehension of the rules. That's my goal next time. So somebody goes, oh, what's the range on Fireball again? Like, oh, 300 feet. Okay, great. Thank you.
Right.
Right. Oh, what's the advantage, disadvantage ranges on a longbow? Oh, it's 150, 600.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. Right.
But maybe if they ask you like, oh, what can I do to make my antihero feel more antihero? You may be like, well, I can't be the leader in this aspect. Maybe it's someone else's turn to be a leader.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But where you can, helping out. Where you can't, knowing, oh, I've identified a flaw.
Yes.
Right.
Well, leaders are great because a true leader is giving.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like the DM. It's an act of service.
Yes.
Right.
I
want to make the world around me better, whether that's a selfish reason because I want my world to be better, or it's a selfless reason because I want your world to be better. Doesn't matter. The world is getting better.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So let me get to the final frontier.
Space.
Yeah. The space in your heart. This is the emotional investment. This is the danger.
A lot of space, a gaping hole right there.
Gaping. This is the
really
void that we all have.
Yes.
That needs to be filled with something, right?
Yes.
And for whatever reason, for all the multitudes and facets, we get attached to things in the game, right? Players get attached to things, whether it's their character, whether it's their character's dog, whether it's their character's interaction with an NPC, right?
Yeah.
It gets very difficult, but our beliefs can come in real hard when they go filtered through emotions.
Yup.
Right? And so the adage of, if you love something, let it go. It can hurt. It can real hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is now we've gone away from like kind of progressional belief. Everything that we've talked about before gets all wonky when we start dealing with emotions.
Yes.
Right. Because emotions go in weird directions when we were talking about. They
complicate everything.
Oh, they do. Right. Intellectual morality, relatively super easy to define.
Relatively super
easy. Emotional morality.
Yeah.
Ugh, not with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Right. And
I'm not a leader in that aspect.
I'm not a leader in that. I can help, coach some people through some things, but ultimately it's up to them always. Right. Just like it's up to me to manage mine.
Yes.
And you got to trust the system. If you can develop a positive feedback loop in intellectual belief systems and habitual forming systems, then you can do the same emotionally. It's like what we talked about. Treat everyone at the table like they are poets and scholars.
Yes.
Right. Assume that slight that you took was not an active statement. It was an oopsie, or they didn't realize. Right.
Yeah.
These sorts of things will allow you to maintain not only that psychological resistance, but develop an emotional resistance to negative stuff.
Resilience.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people have pets that they're attached to in life, right?
A lot of people have pets that they're attached to in life.
I love my PCs, right? Losing PCs is something that I'd never want to really deal with, but I can respect that some of the things that I can build can be destroyed because I'm comfortable with that. Some of the skyscrapers have to come down eventually, right? And we can only just honor and give gratitude to those things for what they have done. And that will help reinforce that positive cycle. That will prevent any kind of negative draw, I think, when we start talking about emotional belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's a lot of fun. I mean, honestly, everything building up we jump into our player character synergies where we start building off of each other. If you can do it in the game, you can do it in real life. Really, I mean, both are true. Being brave is going to be massively important when you get towards that damning self-doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And remember,
doing anything requires bravery. Like anything at all.
Anything at all requires some.
And especially so if it's something that you're not familiar with.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. And this is where we come to kind of the final thing that I want to say.
Okay.
Is overcoming that self-doubt. Right?
Okay.
It's if we live the life. It's a weird statement. If we live the life is whatever you want to recognize and work on. Right?
Okay.
I'm going to work on being healthier. Okay, great. So I'm going to eat healthier things. Great. Now I'm living the life of healthy because I'm making healthy choices. Great. TTRPGs can be that place to experiment in a safe, small area to see how these things fit. What do I feel like if I am playing a confident person? More confident than I am. I'm going to play real, super Prince Charming Silver Knight, right?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm going to play Rapscallion, dirty boy from around the corner.
So dirty.
So dirty. It's still all safe, or should still all be safe for you to do. And you can go in because this is the practice of visualizing yourself with a tinge of application to overcoming that self-doubt, right? To overcoming these things, these negative intrusive thoughts, these negative cycles that are already at work. They're already at work on you constantly. Entropy is trying to pull you down.
Yes.
Right? Emotional entropy. So since we know, and this is one of the first things I said, since we only can create from what we know.
Yes.
We've been talking for over an hour and a half now. You know way more, probably, or at least are focusing on certain things that you may not have focused on before. So what can you create now that you couldn't have created 90 minutes ago? Right?
Yeah.
What new insights into yourself have you experienced that you can actually change your world right now? How does that make you feel?
Right.
How does that knowledge empower you to change how you feel, change a belief, change a limitation, change a bias, change a perspective? You're different now than you were then.
Right. I'll give you a hint if you're unsure. And the answer is everything.
Oh.
You can change everything.
Noise.
And anything.
Yeah.
Right? And you should feel awesome about that and in control of everything. I'm going to pseudo quote the Bible here. It says, "You are made in the image of God." We are made in the image of God. And now that you've understood everything that we've talked about today.
Just that was another flag moment. When he said, "You're made in the image of God," what came to mind? Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, right. Right, your beliefs. Right, now that you understand all this stuff, like that your beliefs define your world, right? That you can affect your own beliefs. Right? And if you can affect your own beliefs and your beliefs define the world, right? You can define the world to your liking.
Some soldier boy.
Right? Like a god.
It's like, whoa.
Right? Because you're in the image of God. Isn't that crazy though?
Yes.
But really, if you think about it, you define existence for yourself.
Yeah.
So you can do anything.
Yeah.
And everything that you set your mind to it.
Yeah.
Right? And the trick is, the one simple trick.
Oh.
Right? Right?
Atheists hate this.
Not even atheists believe in something.
Oh.
A concept.
Okay, sure.
Right? Like we all believe in something. Anyways.
Maybe dentists hate this one. So
maybe yeah. The demons. But what you have to remember now, and after hearing about all this stuff, right? Is to be intentional with your beliefs.
Yes.
Right? Like, yes, I have all these beliefs. I know what they are and what they can do. Now be intentional with them. Right? Because if you don't control your beliefs will control you.
Yeah.
Then you don't get to choose what you want to be, what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
how the world feels and looks to you,
Yeah.
right? So you have to, like Byron mentioned, just do it. Right? You gotta.
It all comes back. It's
you
so
gotta
dumb.
do it.
It's so dumb. It's
Right?
so simple. And it's so difficult.
Right? So figure out what your beliefs are and figure out, right, where you want to go. And let's just bring it down a little bit.
I won't go to
Right?
McDonald's.
Me too. Maybe after this.
Okay.
Um,
Hopefully, we'll talk to the teleporter.
just summon us some burgers.
Send us to the drive-through. Oh, that's even better.
Maybe if we get enough likes and subscribes, we'll get some McDoubles right here summoned for us. So you might have some specific beliefs that might be hurting your D&D experience. Right? Let's just go through some, I don't know, ones that come into my mind sometimes.
Right.
Right? Is that, like, sometimes I think I'm not good at role-playing. I'm just like, I'm just so bad at it. Like, I can't do what I want. The scenes that I try to put out aren't as cool as I want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I set a personal goal for myself, and I just, for the past 3 sessions, I
Didn't get it.
accomplish any of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm just so bad at this. And if you think like that, if you believe that, if you let that belief control you, you'll start seeing all the little mistakes that, right? All the little mistakes that you do that you do commit, and the big mistakes, and you'll either not see or disregard all the successes that you do have.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And this will make you less brave, right? Take less chances. You'll be more closed off. You'll do less interesting things, and that will make your role play worse. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Right? Again, negative self-talk.
Yep.
Right? Reframe that and say, hey, I'm role-playing and I'm getting better and better and better. The more I do this, the better I get and the better I feel about it. Right? Another one is a comment, I think, is this DM is so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That was a bad session.
Yeah.
Like, why would the DM do that? Right?
Why would you do that?
Right? And if you think that way, what are you going to do? You're going to start to look down on them.
Sure.
Right? And if they feel this, and they will feel this when you look down on people, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Right? When you don't get the respect. I'm doing my best, and my players just think it's the worst thing ever. Right?
Yep.
It will affect your DM. And probably make them a worse DM. Because they will take less chances.
Yep.
They will be more fearful. Right? Unless they are being intentional with their beliefs. But typically, if they haven't heard this talk, they won't know to do that, right?
Sure. No, they'll feel competitive, not cooperative. Right?
Correct. And this will make them worse. And then again, you'll think they're so bad.
Yeah.
And it's this horrible feedback loop again.
Yep.
Right? Cut that stuff off.
Yeah.
Right? Another one is, this campaign is boring. What are you even doing? I don't know. I'm not interested in the things that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Again, if you think that, you'll miss all the potentially interesting things that might be there. Right? That you just didn't find, didn't see, because you're convinced in your world, you defined this campaign for yourself as boring.
Yeah.
Right? So what are the interesting things? Hooks. Roleplay hooks. You'll miss them all. Right? Maybe hooks that you could have made for yourself. Right? That would have made the campaign more interesting and fun.
Yeah.
If you had just believed that this campaign is fun. I could make it fun. Right? There's so many fun things that I could find and do here.
And identifying it, you could say, hey, I'm not having as much fun as I want to be. Is anyone else feeling that? And maybe the DM goes, you know what? I'm super burned out. Like, I just, I can't do creative stuff right now. I can't do. Do you want to try something else?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we maybe not kill this campaign? Do we want to put this campaign away for 2 months or something and then come back to it? Or maybe I had a great idea. All I've been doing is creating seafaring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this underground stuff. Do you guys maybe want to switch? Can be a great and powerful thing to say, look, stop the negative, get the positive.
Yeah.
Right.
But
like conversation.
I mean, so you've got this negative talk in your brain. And you're like, oh man, this DM's the worst. I suck at role playing. The campaign is boring. why am I even playing D&D?
I've said all those things.
Right? Just because my friend plays D&D, I want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
Is that the only reason? Maybe I should stop. Right? But you don't want to be like that. How do you change those beliefs? Right? And I'll tell you a trick that worked with me is that you need to lie to yourself. Just lie to yourself.
Have you seen a pattern from that side of the table? From that side of the table?
Guys, stay with me here. Okay?
Internal social
You
proofing.
need to lie to yourself.
Yes.
This is my belief. That's how I define my world.
I know.
Right? Because we know that repetition builds belief.
Yeah.
Right? So if you repeat lies, right? Repeated lies will become beliefs and change your world. Right? And then once the world is changed to reflect those lies have now become truths.
Yep.
Crazy enough. Right?
Yep.
Why? Because we are gods. We're like unto God. Right? We get to do that. That's how you are able to do anything and everything. By lying to yourself. Right? For example, when I was younger, like junior high school, I was not confident at all. Like if you told me that I would be producing and writing a podcast to be viewed by as many people as possible, I'd be like, no, I could never do that. I was not confident at all. I couldn't speak publicly. I couldn't even tell the fast food McDonald's guys, ask him for ketchup. Because I was like, I just don't feel like I can ask for ketchup. I'm just didn't have any confidence whatsoever.
No ketchup for you.
Until one day, I decided that I wanted to be more confident. I didn't know if it was going to work or not, so I just started lying to myself. I said, Sean, you are confident. You are the best looking guy in the room, right? You are so funny. I didn't believe it at all. But I just kept saying it to myself. And the thing is, I kept saying it to other people. It came out as jokes at first.
Of course.
Right? They're like, oh man, that's a nice shirt. And I'd be like, no, it's not the shirt. It's a me. Right? It's funny. It's a joke. But if you keep doing it, and after a while,
yes,
like years, to be honest, one day I just realized that I was confident. I believed my own lies, right? And then because I believed that I was confident, I all of a sudden was confident, and it wasn't a lie anymore. But it all started off with lying to myself, constantly, 24/7.
The repetition, the realigning of the belief,
right?
Yes,
the repetition became a belief, and the belief defined the truth in my experience in my world. Right. And now we have Caffeine and Cantrips.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. So lie to yourself. Right? Think about the perfect you. I know, right?
Thanks, deceiver.
Think about the perfect D&D table. Think about the perfect campaign. And then be intentional with your beliefs and your lies and create that world for yourself.
Yeah.
Because you are created in the image of God.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever God.
Whatever.
Right? So if you want to quote that movie, if you build it, they will come. Like if you do it, everything will come to you.
Yeah.
You just have to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a quick point there to finish things off.
Oh, the little cherry.
Yeah. Right on top there.
Nice. Good for you. Not only you're more confident, but you learned you're a god. So that's pretty amazing.
Right? Maybe not in your existence or your world, but in ours, definitely. For your own.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's weird to think that. But yeah, absolutely.
I don't even think it's so far from the truth. In our daily lives, how many people we experience, how many people we meet and see, how long they have to develop an understanding of who we are. How many times have I practiced voices going through the drive-thru? So that person's like, that's a weird Scottish person, or that's a weird mid-Atlantic kind of, right? Whatever. That's the slice that they get of me. That is their entire knowledge of me.
Well, and that's their existence.
experience, but that's who I was in that moment.
But it's interesting because what my experience is in some ways wholly separate from what your experience is.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Right?
You need to maintain at least a foot of distance.
Right? It's like COVID light. But yeah. There you go.
Good. Well, I am experienced out on this, I think. This is another one of those episodes where we roll dice and have fun. But also that's so chunky. I love that die.
19.
It's so
right?
good. So good.
Add my plus 25 bonus to that.
Did you say almost a 20? Or yeah.
Gotcha.
It's super powerful, and it's super crazy how these sorts of things that we take, I don't want to say for granted, but definitely for granted every day can adjust how we actively or passively interact with the things around us. So go forth, we've already talked about setting character goals, setting goals for the session, set goals for yourself. Nobody's ever said set goals for yourself.
What? No. Who would say that?
But like experiment within the game. Use the game as a tool. Use the self-talk as a tool. Use the next RP scene that you call for as a tool. Examine where you need to do work or where you feel you need to do work. Right? Examine where you feel you don't need to do work. Get into the nitty-gritty and the trenches of your own kind of psyche and have a blast.
Yes.
Right? Like don't view it necessarily as the uphill grind of every day it's a war and every day it's a fight, because every day it gets a little bit better. Right?
And a little bit closer to whatever you want it to be.
One day you too could have the second best D&D podcast in the world behind your friends at Caffeine and Cantrips. But I think that's lovely. I think it's lovely to leave people with such an empowering statement as you control yourself.
Yeah.
Whether you believe that or not.
So go forth, have great D&D, because the best part of D&D is you. But in the meantime, this has been Caffeine and Cantrips.
I was Byron.
And I'm Sean.
And we didn't do a hook today.
And we'll see you next time.
or else. Gotta have the hook.
Gotta have the hook. Deck a hook.
Deck a hook. Deck a hook my biases.
Ooh.
Deck a hook my belief.
Hook me on outside. How about that?
Hook. Wait. Hook me in. I got $20.